Oh my goodness, I love you know that I used to live by this really good coffee shop, so then whenever she did, one of the hardest. Well, good morning. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, St. George. I think I'm on. I'm always on. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, St. George. My name is Reverend Laura Hallett, and it is my pleasure to welcome you here on this beautiful, glorious, almost spring morning. We're close to spring. I'm so glad to see so many of you got here on time. That was wonderful.
Oh my God.
We tried to put as many reminders out about the time change as we could, but I was like, okay, we'll see. I know I was here at about 9:15, and I was by myself, and there's usually like half a dozen people here, and I was kind of concerned, but it was wonderful. Everything worked out perfectly. So we're going to start off this morning with a little bit of music like we always do. So we've got Alan up here to sing us into this. Get the slides going here. All right. Join us. We'd love to have you sing with us.
I bow to the flame in you, feel your light, see it shining through. I am grateful you are here today. Good morning, friend, namaste. I bow to the joy in you, see your light, see it shining through. I am grateful you are here today. Good morning, friend, namaste. I bow to the love in you, feel your heart, see it shining through. I am grateful you are here today. Good morning, and namaste. I bow to the truth in you, feel your spark, see it shining through. I am grateful you are here today. Good morning, and namaste. Good morning, friend. Namaste.
All right, so let's take a moment and greet each other. Shake hands, give a hug, make a new friend. Good morning. I try to move
I'll see Brother here today. The house
I'm having a hard time.
Yeah, I haven't seen John. Just to be honest, you know, these guys are so good. I'm more on the Tony Bennett.
That's all I agree. The hardest part is I agree. I have to go to Baltimore.
I must
Sorry if I introduce you to as the Allenettes.
places down in Arizona.
Anyway, that was kind of pretty good.
Okay, I'd love to have something in there.
Just needs to order it.
All right, so as we begin to enter into our more contemplative time this morning, would you take a moment and check your cell phones, make sure they're turned off, or in that vibrate mode so that we're...
Thank you, my dear woman.
So Alan's going to lead us into a song from Eddie Washington Jr., and Becky Cooper is going to be giving us our invocation today.
Flow, Spirit, flow through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding peace. Show, Spirit, complete as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding love. Flow, Spirit, flow through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding peace. Show, Spirit, show through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding
And as we prepare ourselves to receive the spiritual nourishment we are about to get, as we sit here and breathe and be still and listen and know that we are each in the right place at the right time, and that we are opening ourselves to listen and to know and to be guided by that infinite love, infinite intelligence. We say thank you that I am here, that I am willing, and that I am open, and that I am excited, absolutely ecstatic to know that Spirit is guiding me. I am willing to listen and be directed. And I say thank you. And I say thank you. And I say thank you. And so it is.
And so it is.
Flow, Spirit, flow through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding peace. Show, Spirit, show through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding
Thank you, Alan and Becky, for that. Beautiful way to start this morning. So this month we are focusing on the theme of integrity. And last week Joe Kovach was here from Las Vegas, and he spoke about how integrity is about the wholeness that already exists within us. And so this week our topic is about how God is actually working through us to bring that wholeness into expression. And so in this idea of integrity, you know, before I came into any kind of religion, to me integrity was about being truthful and honest. That was the only thing it was. I never really realized that integrity also means wholeness. And that if something is integral, it is perfect, it is whole, it is complete. And that if you are an integral part of something, then you are a necessary component to that wholeness. And so when we look at this idea of wholeness and integrity, and we think about it in terms of God and how God is working through us, we have to go back to the very basic principle that we have in Science of Mind, which is that God is individualized in us, and that each one of us is an individualized expression of it. That there's not one part of us that does not contain God, and there's not one part of God that is not part of the whole of it. There's nothing in creation that exists outside of God. And so if we keep that basic premise in mind and think about that as this wholeness, this integrity of the universe that is moving through us, and we begin to realize that taking it into my body even, every single cell of my being then must be an expression of God. That God exists within me at a cellular level, at a molecular level. That everything that exists inside of this oneness. And so therefore everything in my body must be a component of God. And so oftentimes when we think about God working in our lives, we are looking to something outside of ourselves. We're looking to something outside of ourselves and we're trying to bring it into our lives. And we've got that totally backwards. It's already within us. Everything that exists right now within us is in us at a cellular level. And so the whole idea of God working through us is really an inward journey. It's a journey into ourselves, into an understanding of that relationship between that divine essence that is in us all of the time, that created us, that birthed us from its own essence and its own life. And it brings itself forth through us by coming through us, by doing this, moving from the inward outward into expression. I mean, I think so many times we've spent in most traditional religions, we've looked outside of ourselves. We've looked at that super Santa Claus God up in the sky, sitting on the throne with the big long gray beard, and we're beseeching that God, please, please, please bring this into my life, instead of going within and asking. You know, the poet Rumi, the mystic Sufi poet from the 13th century, has a poem, and one of the lines in it is, "What I seek is seeking me." We are outside looking for something outside of ourselves, when in actuality it is within us, seeking to express itself through us in everything that we are and everything that we do. You know, our founder, Ernest Holmes, talks about God in two aspects. He talks about the love and the law. And in that he says, wrong way. Love is the presence and law is the way it works. We are surrounded by and immersed in both of these. So the law is that functioning part of us, that thing that works in a certain way, just like we would think of laws in our society. Laws work in a certain way, and we don't deviate from the laws. If we do, then there are consequences to that. The law of God works in the same way in our life. In our philosophy, we call it the law of cause and effect. If we do something, there is going to be an effect. If we let's see, I can't even think of anything right now. No. Okay, if I don't get enough sleep, I'm tired. The cause is I didn't get enough sleep. The effect is I'm tired. Okay, just as simple as that. So there are all these things that we do in our lives that cause and effect. That's the law working. But the love is there. The love is what created us in the first place. The love is what we are immersed in. It's what we are surrounded in all of the time. It is the very essence and truth of who we are. The word love is synonymous with God, with spirit, with universe. It means the same thing. We are in and as an unconditional love of God. It is the very essence of who we are. So we have one of our practices that we do here, which is called visioning. And visioning is really about how God works through us. The whole thing to do with visioning is how we are tapping in to what is already within us, wanting to be expressed. And that whole process of visioning begins by centering ourselves in unconditional love. Unconditional love is that divine essence. If we are centered in that, then things like fear and doubt disappear. Hardship disappears. Things like that don't exist if we keep ourselves centered in love. It is when we move out of love, move away from that our faith diminishes. So that's one of the components of it. The second component of visioning is deep listening. We really have to begin to listen. what I am seeking is seeking me. All I have to do is get quiet enough to hear it. Oftentimes people say, you know, I've been praying and praying and praying. Here we call that treatment. I've been treating for this. I've been working this issue. I've been treating. And so my question often to them is, are you quiet enough to listen to God's response? Sometimes we just keep talking and talking and talking and talking and talking in our treatment, in our work, and we're never quiet enough to listen for what Spirit has to say to us. That's what visioning does for us. It centers ourselves in this unconditional love, and it gives us that space of deep listening, where we can actually begin to hear that voice that's calling us. You know, one of the things that gets really confusing in science of mind philosophy is the word mind. So mind can be synonymous with God. There is this universal mind that exists, and we are all centered in that universal mind. It's part of us. We are a part of it. But then we think about our mind, you know, our little human mind. And we think oftentimes that our mind is our brain, that organ that sits inside of our head, and that mind doesn't exist outside of that. But we can prove that to ourselves very easily. Have you ever imagined anything that you've never seen before? So if you could imagine something you've never seen before, then you are existing outside of your brain. Because our brain is just the physical organ is a way of interpreting what our senses see and feel and touch, hear, taste, all of those things. And so our brain is that repository for those experiences. But our mind is much more than our brain. Our mind exists outside of it. Otherwise, we could not imagine things we've never seen before. We could not have ideas that we've never heard before, we've never experienced before. You know, people that are creative, that artists and writers and so forth, you can talk to just about any of them. You can read any of their accounts of how these ideas come to them. And it's always coming to them from something outside of their mind. It's not their own thinking it up. In quantum physics, we call this a discontinuous event, or you may have heard the more common phrase, a quantum leap. A quantum leap is when something occurs to you that has never been there before. And now that is coming through that avenue of awareness that our mind is. Our mind is not a creative force, it's an avenue of awareness. The mind, with a capital M, is a creative force. That mind that we are immersed in, that universal spirit and presence, that's the creative force. And when we get quiet enough and still enough, then we can catch those glimpses. That's when we have those divine inspirations. That's when creativity just bursts forth from us with ideas that we've never thought of before. That's when these magical artists create these things that are just unbelievable and stunning. It is a misnomer for us to think that our mind is creating anything. It is that universal spirit that is flowing through us, and that's how it's working in us. Whether it's an artistic endeavor, whether it's a way to deal with a situation in your life, it doesn't matter what it is. That mind is an avenue of awareness when we tap into it and get quiet enough to hear it. This month, our book of the month is The Inward Journey by Howard Thurman. And as I was reading through it this week, I came across this passage that I wanted to share with you. I don't usually read to you in here, but his words are so beautiful, I can't do him justice by paraphrasing them. So this book is a collection of what he called meditations that were printed in the Sunday Bulletin at the Marsh Chapel at Boston University, where he was a dean emeritus. They were written in the 1960s, early 60s. And the title of this one is Radical Amazement. We have externalized our lives to such an extent that more and more, the only real things seem to be what we can touch, see, hear, taste, and smell. As long as we are dealing with objects at the level of the senses, we think we are on the ground that is safe and therefore certain. And this tendency expresses itself in many ways. We measure our friendships by the wide variety of tokens of testing, by the things we're given, by the repetition of words of affection, by the obvious sacrifices made on our behalf. We often place value upon ourselves in terms of the extent and the quality of our wardrobe, by the size of our bank account, or by the number of prestigious bearing people who know us and recognize us, or by the power we are able to exert over these things. Each of us has our own list. What is forgotten is the fact that life moves at a deeper level than the objective and the data of our senses. We are most alive when we are brought face to face with the response of the deepest thing in us to the deepest thing in life. Consider the illustration of the sunset. We see the sunset, we recognize the color, the shape, the general quality of the atmosphere. To these we respond. Then, when in the midst of all of this, something else emerges. The sunset opens a door in us and to us, to another dimension, timeless in quality, that can only be described as ineffable, awe-inspiring. And then we know radical amazement. We know this in prayer at its best and its highest. Then we pass through all the external aspects of our situation and need. When the walls of our pretensions are swept away and we are literally catapulted out of the narrow walls that shut us in, we experience radical amazement. Spirit is met by spirit, and we are whole again. When we get quiet enough and deep enough, and we can transcend the idea that I have to do anything, that I have to think up the right idea, that I have to say the right words in prayer, and we surrender to that inner knowing, that's when Spirit really begins to work through us. That's when it begins to emerge through us in a way that we could have never foreseen, we could have never predicted, we could have never imagined, because it is transcending this human senses. It is coming from that ineffable, that thing that is unnameable. And it is moving through us. Now, Spirit works through us in miraculous ways. We've all heard of miracles that have happened, things that were seemingly impossible. People have been cured from diseases that they were given a death sentence, said to go home and get their affairs in order. And they're alive 10 years later. It's not because of anything they thought up, but it's because of that Spirit moving within them. And Spirit moves best within us when we're quiet, when we're still, when we can hear that voice within us. Ernest says, there wells up, this is a really long quote, so I put it in 2 places. There wells up within us a trust, a consciousness that we are surrounded by an infinite goodness. And that thought of peace spreads itself beyond the confines of our own consciousness and helps that much in healing a sick world. First at home, in the silence of our own thought, let us heal ourselves of fear, of doubt, of uncertainty. Let our lives be peaceful. Let our lives be whole. Then shall that peace, which is God abiding in us, within us, radiate from us. The law and the love works in equal measures in our life. And we are comfortable with that idea when we actually begin to sit in that quiet communion with Spirit. When we begin to allow Spirit to have a place to operate in our lives. We relinquish control. We do that S word, we surrender. And we allow Spirit to move through us. Then our lives transform in amazing ways. Now there are two aspects of this. One is to center ourselves in a deep and unabiding faith of the truth of all of this, that there is this love that wants only to express itself. And the other part is to clear away those things that are blocking it. Sometimes we're our own worst enemies when it comes to our spiritual growth. Our fears and our doubts, our ideas of limitation and lack, can turn us away from our faith that we know. Sometimes it's hard to center yourself in the idea of abundance when you're having trouble paying the bills. Sometimes it's hard to center ourselves in an idea of wholeness when we've been given a diagnosis of a disease. And anytime we turn away from that, we are entertaining the idea of 2 powers. The 2 powers are operating here. That there is this good power, this power for good in the universe that we can use, and this power of something else. Our faith is built on turning away from those ideas of separation and centering ourselves on that idea of unconditional love, of the perfection perfection and the wholeness of the divine that exists right here and right now. That's the truth of who we are. And so we can do our work to recognize and become aware of where those ideas of separation are operating within our lives. We can begin to look at, okay, I'm experiencing what seems to be lack here in my life. But what do I know is true? That there is an infinite source out there, and that everything is possible through God. And when I center myself back into that, remembering, then I have less fear about that situation I'm faced with right now. And the thing is, you got to keep doing it over and over and over again. Because those doubts will creep up. They creep up into our experience. We face one, it seems like sometimes we get through one challenge, and here comes another one. I don't believe God tests us in any way. That's never been any part of my belief system. I just think these are opportunities for us to have a deeper connection with Spirit. To really begin to listen, to tune ourselves into that voice within us. Because truly, all of the answers are available within. We just have to be quiet enough and go deep enough to find them. So, let's take this idea into prayer here. And just kind of center ourselves. I'm going to spend a little bit of time during this prayer in silence because, as I said before, oftentimes we just keep yammering away and we never take time to listen. So I'm going to pause for a few moments in this prayer just to give us this time, that space to listen here. And so if you will, just take in a nice deep breath. How good it is to just be quiet. To allow ourselves to become still. And to tap into that presence. And so I know that right here and right now, there is only one power. One presence of unconditional love. One divine creator that has brought forth everything into existence. One divine essence that exists within my being at the cellular level. I simply know that presence and that power is God. And I know that God is all there is. That the perfection and the wholeness of the universe exist as a living, breathing example of God. That everything in creation is that unique emanation of this one. Because I know there's only one, I know that I am one with it. I know that all that I am is a manifestation of God. I know that I am created in unconditional love. That my very nature is that perfect peace and harmony. I know that this infinite power and presence moves through me, as me, in all that I am and all that I do. And as I know this is true for me, I know this is true for everyone here. Everyone within the sound of my voice, everyone in existence. For there is only this one universal truth, and it is the truth of all. And so centering myself in this oneness, and feeling this power and presence, I simply pause and I listen. right here and right now, I know that each one of us is that individualized expression of the one. Endowed with all that God is, with that amazing unconditional love, that perfection, that harmony, that grace moving through us and all that we are and all that we do. I know that we are amazingly infinite and abundant in all of our functionings, all of our dealings, everything that we have to do in our life is filled with that allness and the goodness of God. I know that the truth of our being is wholeness and perfection right here and right now. I know that nothing exists outside of this one divine presence and power, so I know that there can be nothing that hinders or harms me in any way. I just feel this power and presence. I feel it overflowing me. I feel it welling up within me. I see it operating before me, and I know that the grace of God is the truth of all life. And I just simply give thanks for this knowing. I'm so grateful to feel this power and presence. I'm so grateful to see it operating in the lives of everyone I encounter. And I just simply release this word, knowing this truth. I let it be. And together we say.
And so it is.
I had a moment. I don't know about anybody else. Okay, so now is that time that we, I think, we come together. Eddie's got another song for us. Alan's got another Eddie song for us.
Thank you, Reverend Laura. That message was great. Thank you. And thank you, Spirit, for Reverend Laura. You all ready for this?
I'm ready.
Take a look at the person next to you. Say, God loves you and I love you too. I feel the love in the sanctuary. Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love, we come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love. Now look at the person next to you. They'll recognize the God in you. Feel the love in the sanctuary. Now lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love. From every walk of life, every creed and color, in His we unite. In honor of the love of each other. Now give the person next to you. Say namaste, I bow to you. Feel the love in the sanctuary. Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Centers for Spiritual Living St. George's, Halladettes.
Thank you all for that. Appreciate that. I forgot to ask at the beginning, is there anyone here new for the first time? We have a little bit of a packet for you, some information. Here, got another one back over here, Sharon. Do you have any more? Oh, Gwen's got it. Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome to, we're glad to have you here joining us. We hope you find something here you like, and we'd love to have you back again with us. Oh, I'm a little off now. Okay. Offering, all right. This is the time when we go into sharing of our tithes and offerings. This is a conscious practice that we do here to demonstrate our understanding that God is our source and that that source is infinite and abundant. So as you prepare your offering, would you just hold it near your heart and give it a silent blessing? And would you repeat after me, please? This gift I give.
This gift I give
Goes forth from me.
goes forth from me,
Does amazing and miraculous things.
does amazing and miraculous things,
And returns to me in kind.
and returns to me in kind,
Pressed down and overflowing.
pressed down and overflowing.
And so it is.
And so it is.
If you were wanting to tithe electronically, we have the capability of doing that. Just see us after the service and get that going. Alan has a song for us. Sing while we do this.
You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit. And who you are, and all you do. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth. And who we are, and all we do is bless.
Oh, and how blessed we are to receive these gifts, to know that this abundance is flowing through us in all of the avenues of our being here. I'm so grateful for each person who has generously given of themselves, their time, their talent, and their treasures in support of this community. For I know that the message that we have here today goes out from us, blessing and touching the lives of everyone we encounter. And for this, I just simply give thanks. And so it is.
So it is.
Hands after this. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth.
Thank you. Just a few announcements this morning. This Friday we have a fundraiser event going on. It's a Sacred Bowls meditation. These individuals, I believe, are from Colorado, Grand Junction, Colorado. And they've been all over. I know they were in Las Vegas at my old center this past week. So a fabulous opportunity to come and have a Sacred Bowl meditation. Starts at 6:30. $20 general admission, but they have a discounted rate for seniors, students, military, and first responders. Probably anybody that asks. They're very generous with their time and their talent for us, so thank you. Hope you come and support that. We had a great event last night here with a Native American flute concert here, so it was wonderful. This next Sunday, we are having a baked potato potluck. We have a sign-up sheet on the back, and we need more toppings. So if you're interested in bringing some toppings, we've divided it up into, so you just have to bring like one big container of sour cream or one thing of butter or whatever. There's a whole list over there. Sharon was very good about dividing all that up. So Sharon and I are making the baked potatoes, and so we're going to have a big potluck here after service. Right before we have our annual membership meeting, which is an event that we do as a nonprofit organization. We have an annual membership meeting each year to give you the state of the church and what's happening, where we're going, our vision for the future, and so forth. So that will be occurring right after the potluck. It may start before 1. We'll see how the time goes with that. And 3 would be the latest. I don't think it's going to last that long. So we have elections that are happening, and we have 2 fabulous candidates that will be announced next Sunday for you to vote to join our leadership council, core council here. So that brings up my membership list over there. So we've been spending the last couple of months collecting a membership list because we did not have an actual printed list of who was members. And so if you identify yourself as a member with Centers for Spiritual Living, we needed you to sign a paper over there. So I put it a list of everybody that's turned one in. So it's on a red clipboard right next to the purple papers on the back table. Check that list, make sure your name's on it. If you think consider yourself a member, there you go, Barb, thank you. Our banner for the day. Check that list, see if your name's on there. If I haven't got it, there's a purple sheet of paper right next to it. Just please fill that out for us, and so we have your information. We have to have an official membership list so we can do an official election as a nonprofit. It's part of our legal status here, so that's what that's for. It asks you to commit your time, talent, and treasure, and I can pretty much guarantee that most of you are already committing your time, talent, and treasure at the level that we expect that to be done. So it's nothing onerous about it. So please consider signing that so we have your list. So that way you can actually vote on next Sunday. Signs in my discussion group. This has been really successful. I know they're having a great time. I was in here last Monday when they were meeting, and it's been a fabulous experience for the people that are participating in it. It's facilitated by Chris and Gwen Hadley. They kind of call it, what did she say? And talk about what we were talking about on Sunday, and then sometimes bring in things from the Science of Mind magazine or different topics that come up dealing with our philosophy. Our book of the month study is this book here, The Inward Journey by Howard Thurman. And like I said, it's a collection of meditations. So I didn't divide it up because it's one of those things that's not meant to be read cover to cover. It's meant to be read and absorbed. And so it's as you work through it yourself on a personal level, these are meditations that are meant to be, I like to flip through the page and find the one that God's telling me I need to read that day. That's how I do it. Anyway, our book study is 2:30 to 4. My office hours, 1 to 5 on Tuesday through Thursday. I didn't put out a sign-up sheet today. I'll get one out for you. If you want to come see me, you can also call. Our phone number is posted on the website and on the door there. If you'd like to call and make an appointment. Okay, check out our bookstore over here. Sue has got some wonderful things in there. I actually donated some of my books, so if you're interested in those. And you get a free magnet if you buy a book, right? so we have the extra magnets left over from the installation. So anyway, personal prayer today with Becky Cooper. You're going to be in here in the practitioner's office right here. So if you're interested in getting a personal spiritual mind treatment after service, see Becky. And we have coffee and goodies and so forth in our kitchen over here. So
I had a question.
Sure.
Who did you say Becky was again?
Becky is this lady right here with the
you're
purple
right there?
stole.
Okay.
One that did the invocation this morning.
Okay, thank you.
She'll be standing at the door waiting for people. Or in the door with people. Or something. All right. All right, would you stand and join hands, please? All right. And just repeat after me. Something wonderful is happening to me right now.
Something wonderful is happening to me right now.
It is this thing called life.
It is this thing called life.
Life is in my mind.
Life is in my mind.
Life is in my heart.
Life is in my heart.
Life is in every cell of my being.
Life is in every cell of my being.
I express it.
I express it.
I share it.
I share it.
And I am becoming it.
And I am becoming it.
In all that I am.
In all that I
And all
am.
that I do.
And all that I do.
Thank you, life.
Thank you, life.
So it is.
And so it
We
is.
have a song here to sing. If you want.
It's a new day today, it's a new life my way. Without they are no match for me. I'll take my faith and fly because I know that I am creating my own destiny. The past is gone and has no power here. I'm a mighty force into this atmosphere. So I choose to grow, yes I choose to thrive. right here.